Okay.
And I'm so sorry. Uh,
No,
No, no,
don't
thank you.
apologize. Yeah, thank you for working it out.
um, so let's, if we could recap a little. Um, we talked about the book as autobiography versus the book as um, about Appamada. And uh, so this chapter is about the social architecture of Appamada, Appamada's foundation. One of the things we're commenting about is whether we think there's too much or not enough of something.
I would add that we talked about whether it's the diff or the aspects of autobiography versus the aspects of history of Appamada versus the aspects of manual for developing a similar group.
Mhm.
As I've heard Peg talk about all three of those things. Or I haven't heard her talk about autobiography.
Well, in a way, it's a biography of Appamada too. I mean,
Right.
so that
Exactly.
kind of pulls them together, I think.
I sense that her intent is to make something as useful as possible. Also to bring people up to speed who are new to Appamada so that Appamada can continue to grow and evolve.
Whoa, we're skipping along here.
So we got, you saw councils. Uh, let's see if I go like here. This helps. Okay. This was her talking with Lay Teacher Association about the challenges that in the evolution of the Sangha. I don't know if you were there when we read this, Melissa.
No, I'm afraid not. I had a challenge getting here on Monday.
Mm, I think this is interesting. I mean, I think, excuse me, this is actually helpful if we're looking at this as a manual of people that are interested in developing similar groups
Mhm.
or, yeah, just what the questions were that arose.
Would you want to see something about how Appamada is dealing with these, or do you, I mean, it's throughout the book, but you're shaking your head no.
I wouldn't think so. I mean, I would just present this. I'm not sure what the text is leading up to this. We'll just let we go
Well,
back.
here, in reporting the results of the survey I wrote, I want to note that the leaders have an important role evoking, guiding, and applying the creative intelligence of the whole community.
Um, I personally would take out those two paragraphs in reporting the results and fortunately. I mean, I think the stuff over on the right of my screen is actually really interesting. And this seems to be sort of self-explanatory or going over. That's my thought about it.
Okay. So the part on consoles is
Go back to the council.
it's so touchy.
Oh, golly.
Sorry. It's a little abrupt, maybe going right to consoles here.
Yeah, there might be
Yeah,
a way to segue. Something like these were the challenges to the right. We see the challenges that one group, a large group identified as challenges associated with starting a Sangha. And at Appamada, we've addressed some of these challenges in these ways. Number one, councils, or something like that. I don't know.
that would kind of fit with the way she's done a lot of the other parts of the book.
It's still hard for me to reconcile the sort of biography part of it with the instructional part of it. I mean, it makes sense to me that it's biographical.
I once took my work to this New York City art dealer, and he looked through it and he said, "Your work is too personal." And then he said, "For me, not for you." And I thought that was so beautiful. And we're getting a little bit of that here, I think. I think that's what you were just saying, where it's Flint and I and stuff like that. It's personal, but maybe too personal. But
Well,
if it wants to be about how to develop a sangha or the history of it's very personal. There's a lot of personal stuff.
Yeah, and
I,
it's
well, does she have a true demarcation between ending the more personal biographical things and starting this part? I can't remember. I know we talked about it.
well, it's going to be now 2 books,
Oh, okay. Well, that took care of that.
but now she's taken it offline, and it might be completely different. So I have a sense that she's really looking now at this is what she had to get down, and then she's really looking at
And
what this
how to
is.
do that.
Yeah.
so do you think we should be reviewing this at all? If she's actually going to be redoing this,
Well, I think that's what she wants.
okay.
So let's move on because we have 5 chapters.
More personal dilemma had to do with spiritual friendships, instructional dilemma, from a community, sustaining, They are institutional memory. They are abiding presence. They were collective keepers of traditions. Let's see. The garden set up tea tables, answer questions. That was not Joko's way. There's sincere.
It's not really about councils. That's the thing. It's just a short
Yeah.
little bit. So it's kind of an odd turn off the road kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know that I would label this section councils. I would say
Maybe
call it the germination of councils or
somehow tying it into the challenges, one of the ways we meet these challenges or something. I don't know.
or that wide councils, or because you're right, it's not really about councils. I mean, it's about how they came to come up with the idea of councils, but it's not a description of councils.
Yeah, and there's another part that's all about councils.
Oh, okay.
Really elaborate part. Ooh.
Oh. Hmm. Man, I think those questions ought to be part of the website about what are councils. You know, it's
Yeah. And I mean, to me, it too, and I mean, she may have done this. I feel badly coming in today when I haven't caught up. But the things that she had above there, the dilemma 1, 2, 3, 4.
right.
I kind of would think that those would be headings, and then these kind of paragraphs would be underneath each of the headings describing them, or what they were doing, or what they're thinking about doing. And then after at the end of them, then say that the councils became our Sangha's way of handling things.
Yeah, and I don't know that I would get this specific. I mean, if you want this book to be more than just information about this particular 6 months in time, I wouldn't go into great detail about Council 5 and what they do, and
I would think if it's going to be an instructional book, you don't, maybe like in an appendix, you'd want to say what councils were developed, but here it would be why a council. And maybe she
right.
has that somewhere else. Why did we decide to use this model? In what instances did the model help? And then now we've created 5 of them, but we're open, I don't know, open to
Yeah,
more or something. I don't know if that makes any sense.
yeah, that makes sense to me. And I don't know that I would name the council members. I mean, again, we're veering off
Not
into
without their permission.
really personal.
Yeah, I think you have the number of council members. I don't think you should put their names in,
Yeah, wouldn't put their names. We developed a council.
because then you have to get permission from each one of them to have their name in there.
Well, and the other thing that this is interesting to me to think about. This came to me as I was reading those names, thinking, who is still here? Who is still on a council?
Well, there is this list of, these are all the council members
Ever in the world.
that I could find. I went through, um, I can't remember how I did it.
Why did you do this? What was the purpose of this?
Of all the council members, I don't know why I did it. We were talking about it, and I was wondering how many people had ever been on council.
Right, so this is a good historic document, but I don't know that it's appropriate for the book.
For a book,
I
yeah.
would think that the only reason to talk about is to talk about the number of people that you found was a good number to work together. Like, did you
Right.
try having a council and it started out with 10 people, but that was not, so many then just kind of decided as they will with a group, you start out with 10, then a few people left for whatever reasons, not because they were mad or anything, but just they, you know,
Various
left.
reasons, yeah.
And how many did you end up as a core? Because then you know that you have to have a certain number. It doesn't need to be a real number, but you have to have a larger number than you're feeling you need, because you're going to have attrition. Could not find that word in my brain until just now. Then you're going to have attrition down to the number that works well. And then you don't feel like you have to, like if you say you start out with 10 and attrition takes you down to 8, although you never want an even number, but it takes you down to 8, um, then you don't have to go running around looking for those another 4 people. The 8 who works well, that's the number you kind of settle on. I don't know if that makes sense. This is just from my own experience.
Yeah, I don't,
Or I don't even need to talk about it that way. I don't know.
One thing I got from it was how Appamada is not a specific group of people, but it's a changing
Yeah,
thing.
that should be talked about a lot. That's different from other kinds of groups or councils or whatever. That you all sustain change and can still function well.
that's true. I think that's something that hasn't been addressed in this. I mean, thinking about the council that I'm on, it's gone through many iterations. It's had lots of change. People have come, people have gone. Um, and I think that's probably a strength that deals with an inevitable, like you said, the inevitable change, the attrition that inevitably happens for whatever reason. You move away, you fall in love, you have a baby,
You find that this isn't really quite the place for you. Maybe you really belonged
right,
on a different
all right, or you just want to come and
space.
sit. You're not interested in having a leadership position.
Right.
Because I
Okay,
would say a good third of these
And
people are no longer on councils.
right. I think the other thing I was saying kind of along that line is you uh, you don't need to say what day of the week you decided to meet, because that's totally irrelevant.
Yeah, yeah.
We decided to meet once a week, or we decided to whatever, but we decided to meet on Tuesdays after whatever. That's just not. I mean,
Wait,
if you're
go back
editing
a
it.
little bit, Kim, to what she's talking about, the requirements for council members.
you want me to do something?
There are at least 5 Sangha members who meet a certain criteria. I would say something about there is an aspiration, there is an intention, because I don't know. has accurately and completely learned all key roles. That's not true.
Some of this is here because it comes from something else that was originally stated. So it's kind of like a document as opposed.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, to put in a sentence something like, as best we could, we tried to, or it was our wish that, something that kind of softens that.
Yeah, because these look like hard and fast rules, and
Yeah,
I
that's
would turn around. It just doesn't seem like the way the Sangha, at least the people I've met and the way y'all have talked about this before, this just seems completely opposite. Um,
that's interesting.
Can you say a little more, Melissa?
um, I mean, it looks like it's a checklist, right? But, I mean, how are you going to test and know if somebody is completely psychologically and emotionally stable and mature? I mean, I have my days where you certainly wouldn't say that of me, although I
Really?
am. Um, is agreed upon by previous councils and appointed by former head students and teachers. So this shows me that you can't just decide that you really this is someplace you feel that you'd like to be because you have to wait for somebody from a previous council or a former head student or teacher to approve you or you have to go and ask them. And I mean, I'm sure there's an actual way that it happens that is not quite that abrupt. Maybe
Yeah,
not. Maybe I'm
yeah.
totally wrong.
Yeah, it feels very prescriptive. And I don't feel like that's the reality.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I said, I think it's a document from the past as opposed to, but maybe it would be more useful to do something more current. For example, there's many people on consuls who were never in 4 intensives and weren't doing a lot of these
Yeah.
things.
Well, I
Yeah.
think here's the most important paragraph. We endeavor to balance as much as possible men and women on any council. And we will endeavor to support diversity and equity on councils while meeting these criteria. That should be at the very beginning because none of this says any of that, really.
And it does use the softening phrase, we will endeavor.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was liking too.
Why am I not seeing that? Where is
It's
that?
It's
down
all the way at the bottom, Kim. That's why it should be at the top, but it's all the way down here at the bottom.
Oh,
it's
I see.
no. Oh, I see. Yeah. And if this is just, I would take out the, if you have any questions, I understand what you're saying, Kim, that this is lifted from
Yes.
a previous document. But if you're
Right.
going to do that, I would explain that at the top and say, here is our, um,
Here's what we originally,
here's what we believe about councils, or
yeah.
here's what we have written in our website or something. And
Yeah.
if you said that, then you could lift the whole thing. And if you don't want to say that, then I would take out that last sentence.
Hello, Donna.
Hi, Kim. Hi, everyone.
Hi,
Sorry I'm late.
no problem.
It's that kind of a day. I was too.
Okay, and the next part is the board, and that would be 14. So I will go there.
Um,
Hmm.
Yeah, I can see where so much of this is developing would be for some, I mean, to me, I see it as um, trying to mix uh, having information about how to set up a Sangha, right? So, say that I wanted to do it myself and start a new group. Um, and then some of it is directed just exactly because of what happens in this particular at Amamata, this particular place and time. And I think that probably should in some ways be separated, right? Um,
Yeah, I think the second book should, I mean, it's an opportunity to clarify that.
right. And you can have both parts in the book, and you could even separate it again by a pretty page. That this is if you are looking to come and want to know about um how our appamata came set up. I mean, in the physical sense, what did we do? What steps did we take to get to where we are now? But then also have a section, perhaps the first part, which is directed directly at people who are just coming to know Appamata and want to be a part of Appamata, but are not interested in setting up another place or their own or whatever. Because I can see both of those things very clearly in what she's written, and I think that they really don't mesh too well. I think it really needs to be separate. That's just my opinion. But I think it really needs to be separate so that somebody coming in can go, I'll read this first part and then I'll understand and it'll make more sense to me. And then the other part is for, oh, this is how things got organized, this is how things could be organized, this is what's important in organizing and not, because what the person coming in to Appamata wants to know, okay, so there are these councils. Now, how do I get involved in them? What do I have to do or be to get involved with them? The other wants to know, oh, how do you set up a council from nothing? What do you require? What do you put in? What is its purpose? And
Yeah,
that's what I'm kind of thinking here. I mean, she does interweave it pretty well, but it just feels like, again, like we were talking, it feels very personal on one side and then very academic on the other. Maybe academic is the word. I don't know.
yeah, yeah, I agree with you. I think I continue to um, be struck by that difference of purpose. That if I was reading, if I got a book that I wanted to find out how to, what were the steps to set up a sangha and what was important in considering that, I wouldn't want to read all this personal stuff. And if I was reading about the biography of Appamata, I don't know that I would want to go into the academic stuff.
Yeah, I do get the feeling that would be two different audiences, but both things are necessary. Um, I think for her purposes, I just kind of feel like they should be, well, which would take a magnet, right? And pull part, and then the other magnet, and then separate them.
So this is odd. We did 13 first, and then here's 14, but it has a lot of the same stuff as 13. So maybe,
Yeah,
the councils, the dilemmas.
That's weird. I think Donna wants to
um,
say something.
Donna,
Yeah,
talk.
I'm wondering, has there been any like putting this through like readability? What's the readability level. Usually the score that you're looking for is 6th to 8th grade.
Mm,
Because I think when I look at it, some of the paragraphs seem long, some of the sentences seem very long. There's a lot of rich material in this book, but I do also agree with there seems to be two audiences. So I'm just wondering if there's been any, or maybe this is just the first draft. I'm wondering about editing to tighten it up. It can possibly be said with fewer words, and that doesn't diminish it. Do you know what I mean? You can still, can be impactful even though it's fewer words.
Well, she has every intention of working with an editor.
Okay. Okay.
well, it depends on her. Again, because this is so much two different audiences. If you're the part where you're going to explain how to set it up and how it got set up, and how, if you wanted to do this yourself, we'll call that the do it yourself part. Um,
Right.
I don't see any reason to put that down to um a lower reading level. In fact, I really don't see too much having to do that
Oh, so
anyway.
let me
But I see what
explain.
you mean. No, I know what you're. You go ahead and explain. I don't mean to step over you.
No, I was going to
I
explain that when I say 6th to 8th grade, that's just standard.
I
Um,
know.
so 10th grade, when you're talking about professionals, like say if you were writing for doctors or lawyers or technical documentation, then you can go higher to 10th grade reading level. But 8th grade reading level is pretty standard, and it's not diminishing. It's also, in my profession, when we're writing, it's not that where it just makes it easier even for well-educated people to not have to think so much and reread sentences to comprehend. So it's, do you know what I mean? It's not saying, oh,
Yeah.
we're dumbing it down. No, that's not it. It's just for easier readability for everyone.
Yeah. I mean, I understand that. I actually went through all the time when they were deciding to do that. Um,
So
it's kind of,
let's go to
but yeah, I mean,
chapter
either way.
15. Let's go to
Okay.
chapter 15 because we have 15, 16, and 17 still. But this is about the board.
And again, I would say the voice that she's using. When we started out as Ordinary Mind, we made a few adjustments. Or do you want to have the voice that says, when Ordinary Mind started out, there were a few adjustments made? So it's kind of a change from a more general, from a very personal to a more general, here's what happened, not
Yeah,
as personally invested.
and it's in the second paragraph. It does that. It goes back to the other. Much later, as the Sangha grew, not as
Yeah.
we grew, as the Sangha grew, the board developed more structure with more members and more frequent meetings. So right there, you're doing a flip.
Is that from, I mean, it seems like that's a little rough that
Mhm.
that we keep going back and forth.
And then
And
in
then
the
the next
third
paragraph,
paragraph, I had seen.
right. Yeah,
Well, hopefully this is useful for Peg.
I hope so. We really like it, Peg.
And now she's gone into the new board proposal for the board to be a combination of teachers, councils, and other members.
So
And
does she
again,
say at the beginning of that page, here's what I no.
and this part down here where it talks about what should be in the bylaws, the
Yes,
actual stating of the bylaws just needs to go in the back as an appendix.
Yeah.
The why did we make these decisions for our bylaws to be this way should be in here, I think. And again, there's a lot of back and forth. But
Yeah.
because people setting it up are gonna, they have to write their own bylaws, so maybe they'll lift some of this out and maybe they won't. But what I think she wants to get across is what was the reason? Why did we decide to have 1/3, whatever?
well, that hasn't been
1/3.
implemented, and it probably will be implemented by the time, within the next few months. So,
Right.
So then this maybe needs to be rewritten that we now have in the bylaws or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree with Melissa that all of the numbered things should be in an appendix. That this should be really shortened.
Yeah. And you don't need, well, what is it about the Senate, the US Senate? Where did that go?
The US Senate we go back. Representatives, a response to the board. I don't know that I would put that
But
in.
to break a tie, much like, there's no reason to have much like, that's what it does. That's who it is, that's what they do.
Right, deciding vote.
No reason, and especially, and let's just say this to be perfectly honest, especially right now, I don't, at any time really, no matter who's in charge, I don't think we would want to reference back to a political thing,
I
right?
agree with you. Yeah, yeah.
That can bring up all kinds of things that we really don't want to.
Well, especially now.
Yeah, exactly. I guess I am in a safe space. I can say that, especially now. The last thing you want to do.
That was when we had, well, I won't say anymore.
We had a
Yeah,
more
I would
reasonable-
put that whole proposal thing in the appendix.
Mhm. And just have just reference highlights of maybe how the decisions were made to set them up that way. Why would you want that?
Oh, this is a lot of text here. Anyway, offerings of science evidence.
Definitely needs more white space.
Yeah, I mean, oh yeah, I think some of this could be a lot simpler, more simply said.
We love our board and its members. I don't know if that should be there.
No.
No, I don't think so. That's not in this section, right? Because this section is supposed to be the how to. You can do that in the part, if she's going to split it up like we were talking, then
Yeah.
you can say that in the other part. Well, we really love our board member and its members,
So
Or
is
we
this?
have-
I'm sorry. Is this section again cut from another document? Is this part of the thing that she wrote?
I think it is I don't think it's an old document.
Mm-mm.
I think it's something she wrote to the board.
Yeah, because then she has the thing up there about, well, it needs to be set up at least I think that's what it said, kind of needs to be set up a certain way so you don't leave things to chance in the future. Well, I hate to say this, but there's going to
Yeah.
be a way to change it anyway. So
Yeah, it's gotta be.
Okay, let's go to 16.
Okay.
I'm getting good at this now.
you are. I'm very impressed. I may have to borrow you for a presentation.
Oh my
Open,
gosh.
open here.
Open chapter 15. It's not 16.
Yeah, not so good.
Let's go to 17 then.
No, 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 I have a
Because we
16.
have a 16 someplace. And I would put all these links in an appendix.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Put all the links, I don't,
See,
Where
like here, she has information and contact links for Appamada's board can be found here. She's referred to things on the webpage. So all
Yeah.
those kind of reference things should be together with the proper links or contact information, I think.
Donna, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say about, I think you're saying that there's there's two audiences, right? Is that what you're saying?
Mm.
Like
at,
the
at least, yeah.
yeah. What I'm thinking is I'm trying to think of the name of the book. There's a book that has I can't think of the name of it, but it has it's like split into two like it's one book, but half of it is like for the students, I guess. And then the second half is for the teachers. So you could have it be one book, maybe possibly split it in two. I don't know about that. You know what I mean? I don't know about that idea, but it's fluid where it's one is solely you're this audience and you're going to read this, all of this. Hey, then if you want to go and read this, maybe maybe you're both. Maybe you're, you know what I mean? Maybe you fall under I fall into this group audience one. Oh, you know what? I fall into group audience two also.
Yeah.
Possibly. I don't know.
No, that's what we've been talking about earlier. She's already decided to take the kind of the more autobiographical part and make that one book. And then we were talking a little while ago about that this section also has two audiences, and so maybe
Oh, okay.
just also you don't even she can have it all together, but maybe a big one page that's really pretty different. Now this is part one for whatever, part two for whatever, and then you have it all together. And like you were saying, there might be crossover audiences, so that it would
Mm-hmm.
still be all together, but it would be clear which is for whom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. We skipped a
I'm
bunch of
thinking,
pages here. We're going kind of fast.
This is on the generosity initiative.
Right. Right. Yeah. I looked at other. I'm putting my service charge. Time.
yeah, and again, okay, I couldn't imagine how this could possibly work financially.
Right.
You don't want to kill something before it gets started. So I imagine you can even say I am this the hardest part of this is figuring out how to make it work financially. Because if otherwise, if you don't know how to do it, then it doesn't need to be there. But it looks like it happened. Yeah. So, yeah. I think this is an interesting set of things.
Uh,
How to take an idea and say, okay, and then to think, okay, what are like the financial thing doesn't sound like it would work out, but then it actually apparently happened. And so then how it did work out. I think this is a very interesting section. And I think this kind of a section should definitely be kept and is it's a lot of merit to it. Um, and one thing about her, she does say a lot about, how you really have to, or how this was really thought out and what questions came to mind and what did we do to find out what to do. I like that. And I like the reflection. She might want to set up like I think she's got and this is the second one of these in kind of an order like that. And so so each of these ideas has whatever 3 or 4 part way of doing it. And she has them labeled like my reflection and whatever. She did a couple of those. And then there can become in the person who's reading its mind, oh, okay. At first it sounded like it wouldn't work. At first it didn't. At first we were wondering whatever, and then how it got worked through until it got done.
and I would say, I mean, to add something about this is continually evolving, that
Yeah.
it didn't work out the way we originally thought, or to date, it hasn't worked out. We've had to make these adjustments. As I write, this is kind of the model we're following, and we're continuing to evaluate as we go forward.
And to grow, yeah. I think that's good because she does have some of that throughout, and I think she finds it important also that this is not a static thing. It's not like you're setting up the soccer board or something like that. This is meant to be a living, breathing, changing, growing thing. It can't be static. And since I think a lot of people are going to be coming into this with that background, that you set up a permanent thing and then it has to be exactly this way and this thing has to be followed like this. I think because of the nature of this, if it's shown that it can be, or that it is, I mean, obviously is, like I said, a living, growing, changing thing so that but the core is still the same, that you still have the same core values and the same core um, beliefs, if it sort of, yeah. I don't know if I'm making any sense.
Yeah, you're making total sense. Yeah, I think that's true that there's been a lot of talk about how in the beginning of the book about how Buddhism has evolved and has answered the questions of the particular time and place it manifested, and it continues to do that. And so it's it's kind of a hard stop to read these, like, here's how the board's going to be,
Right.
here's how the generosity initiative is going to be, these things that don't really give any kind of acknowledgement to, and when it's time to change this, here's how we'll do that.
Yeah. And the focus again, she's doing it here, but of course, like I said, I've missed some, so don't take my word for it. But here, where it says about going back to what the original was with Buddha's last words, how that flows through all of these different kind of things, that we try not to lose sight of that. We don't want to lose sight um, of that. And if we keep that in our mind as we're doing councils and organizing finances and all of those kind of things, then, you know, then we're doing our, I don't want to say mission. I don't know how you phrase it here, but yeah, we might want to pull that through, that thread might want to go through a little bit more.
Mm. That all of this is practice, and to
Right.
see it that way, yeah,
Yeah.
is the intention of the organization.
Exactly. Because I mean, just from my own experience, at in churches doing the same kind of thing, it gets lost. That's what gets lost, and that's when it just all becomes for naught, as it were.
Yeah.
Lose sight of the word, and you know, what does it matter if you're financially stable if you forgot that part of your mission was to help people who are not? Yeah.
Okay, let's go to 17.
Okay.
You should be really sitting in front of a fireplace with, you know, hot toddies or something.
And it
Start
should
discussing.
be some nice scotch.
Because I don't drink, but you know, I could go.
I'll have
Something
yours.
similar. Yeah. Okay.
Technology. Oh my.
Sorry, I'll make it bigger.
Thank you. And then the other thing too is she going to assume that anybody reading this book or two books has read or has not read the other one? Because this whole thing about the technology, where she was and what she did, is a good reminder, especially if you hadn't read the other book. If you read the other book, then it might want to be phrased differently so that the reader goes, oh yeah, I remember back there I read that. That was good. And
Yeah.
then you see what I'm saying? Yeah.
To have a more passing reference to the real personal, when I started teaching and my sons did this, and
Yeah. I do really like this. I like how she makes it personal and makes you see that technology can be other than what is often thought it is, right? It can bring it in and it can really help. Do the grunt work. And see, I mean, she could say we use Mac laptops and sturdy HP color laser printer. That's what we use, but you know, but a comment, but you know, whatever you have, you can use like this. You know, it doesn't. This kind of looks like a little sales pitch.
yeah.
I mean, I too use HP printers, but I don't use a Mac. I have a regular, or not regular, but I guess whatever you call it. And I kind of like how she's saying how we use all this, but I'm wondering if 5 years from now it's going to be relevant.
That's the thing. That's the thing. If you're being real specific like this, it doesn't last,
Mm-mm.
especially in the technology chapter.
Yeah, I mean, you can say things like, you know, we use technology, you know, for this, it works really well, and you know, who knows what it's going to do years from now, right? I mean,
Right, exactly. Yeah, I don't,
and we
it
don't
doesn't
really
age well.
yeah, no. With the birth of Apamata, Ben built our first computer, our first website in 2009, and Now there've been a bunch of changes. Well, since what she's talking about here, there've been even more.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's necessary. Now, saying websites at this time are, I don't know what they'll be in the future, but this is what we use them for now, or something like that.
Right, right. Yeah. Or what our intentions were. I mean, for a sound recording, why did we want sound recording? And
Why did we want them? Yes.
yeah, not here's what
And why did we not worry about recording things where a lot of people are worshiping, or, well, I don't want to use the word
Right.
worshiping, but
Right.
why is that okay? Right? Yeah.
Right.
I think that might be really good. And again, we have the YouTube channel should be in the appendix.
Yeah.
I do like the part that we don't have professional studios and things like that.
Yeah.
This is funny that she actually, I've reminded her about this. My famous last words were, we'll never have cameras in the Zendo.
Exactly.
Because I suggested we need a webcam in the corner so people can connect. And she said, never, never, never.
I think that's a
Never say
really,
never.
I think that's a really important point.
Yeah.
I took this strong stand and I really believed it, and things changed.
Right. And again, and we went with it, and we found a way to,
Right, right.
yeah,
And we had
to
a
change.
through going intention.
Mhm.
And because of that, I changed my preference.
Yeah. Well, I think just as an aside, if you had told me many years ago that I would sit in front of a screen and be able to relax and meditate and feel I was with a group of people with my eyes closed, whatever, I would have told you were a little on the ditzy side.
Yep.
But again, what did we do at the beginning of this meeting, and how wonderful was it? No, yeah.
Well, and then she does the disclaimer. Yeah, I would.
Yeah, she does have the whole, we'll discover new ways.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I still would take out a lot of that real specific
Yeah.
stuff about Zoom and, you know,
Yeah.
say a social media platform or something like that.
Yeah. And especially too, also, even though most of us are using this technology all the time, we're not, at least I never think of that I'm, technologically advanced or anything. You don't want to have it so that it might sound scary.
Yeah. Part 5. It's part 5, chapter 18. We're in chapter.
No, we're in the last chapter that we have.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Part 5 is
He's been moving us along.
chop chop. Well, it's 8:20.
Any concluding remarks?
Well, one thing I'd like to say is just kudos to even wanting to take this on, much
Yeah.
less to writing this entire thing, and that anything that we say is to be helpful, and also anything that the author does not wish to do it's up to the author in any case.
My writing teacher would tell us, listen to everyone and believe no one.
I like that. Yes.
Don't
Yes,
be
exactly.
fooled. Don't.
Your heart knows what's supposed to be on that page and where.
And we're this really needs to be tested out on people who have no idea about Appamada.
Yes, that
So
would be good.
what do they want to know about? And what are they willing to kind of wade through?
So what, Donna? What's up?
Yeah, test and learn is a beautiful thing. I wholeheartedly support that. I also learned, this may or may not apply here, but I think it might, something to think about. In a playwriting class, and I know this isn't a play, but we were taught a technique where you start at the very end and then you work backwards. And it really is, for me anyway, I found it an amazing technique
Hmm.
because everything that you write has to be, so you start at the end and you think, how did I get to the end? But it's like everything is action reaction, and it's just I thought it was an amazing technique, but for me anyway, better than just a normal outline. It was just so powerful to think in those terms and just to kind of move backwards.
Interesting.
Yeah.
When
Either.
Jack Kerouac wrote On the Road, he wrote it on a roll of paper towels, and he wrote it like with in one sitting, like 8 hours or something, and then he worked 9 or 10 years on it,
Mm.
editing it.
I like
Yeah.
that. I like Donna's idea, your idea about starting at the end.
Isn't that nice? Yeah.
Well, I think about writing a way seeking mind talk that way. Starting, okay, where am I right now? And where was the step before this? And the step before that?